I am going to combine what I was going to do. We're going to do a workshop on understanding and marketing to Hispanics, but I'm also going to combine some things about the company itself because we're not going to be doing the seminar piece today, and I will not be here tomorrow, unfortunately. So I'm also going to talk about my company in addition to telling you or trying to help you understand and marketing to Hispanics. And Neil, can you help me with my phone? Because I think it's going off over there. How many of you have Hispanic friends or employees? Yes. And it's only going to grow. It is not going to change. By the way, this is not a political speech at all, right? We're just going to talk about the realities. It's not going to change no matter who's in charge of the United States. It is only going to go up because demographics are like taxes and death. They happen. And the demographics say the Hispanics are growing at twice the rate of anyone else, so it's going to go up. It is not going to change. My name is David Triana, as you mentioned. My background is not a marketing guru, right? But I had to go into a lot of great resources here to tell you about the marketing piece of things. So there's some great documents that I had to go in and do some research to get some of the things that are going to be covered here. What I do have experience in is, as a Hispanic, knowing and understanding my Hispanic community. I'm a retired Air Force guy. I work for the U.S. government. I'm taking vacation time to be here. Like the first speaker said, you got to be committed to what you do and do what's necessary in order for you to grow. So I'm taking vacation time to be here and be present with you. I am from Navarre. That's where I live. But again, I'm Air Force, and I work for the U.S. government. I work for the Air Force still. I'm a retired Air Force air traffic controller. And while I was in the Air Force, I also got a chance to travel throughout Latin America, the Caribbean, and Central America as a liaison for the United States Air Force with the civilian aviation authorities in those nations. And so I know a lot of the differences between us and definitely the commonalities between Hispanics of all different backgrounds. Conexión Media Group. Let's talk a little bit about Conexión Media Group. Again, some of the combination things. This is who we are right here. This is our mission. We are your bridge to reach the growing Hispanic community of the entire region and the multicultural community, okay? So not just the Hispanic community. I do concentrate in that a lot because as a Hispanic, I want to make sure that there's a bridge between the non-Hispanic side and Hispanics in all things related to the growth in this area. As a matter of fact, when we started these projects is in 2005 when we got hit with a bunch of hurricanes here, didn't we? That is when the Hispanic community exploded in Pensacola, Fort Walton, Navarre, and everything everywhere we live. And there was none of these products that we have now, Conexión Media Group, newspapers, nonprofits, and other things to help that growth. So several of us that cared about that, because my passion, and remember we talked about passion also, my passion is community service. And we said we need to establish certain things to help this growth, to make sure it's positive, to make sure that the schools are ready, because these kids that are coming in here in 2005 and 6 don't know the language, their parents don't know it either, and they still got to go to school. And we got to have media to support them also so that they know where they can get help. So we also founded some nonprofit organizations during that time and other things. So I am your bridge to the Hispanic community and the multicultural community because we have great relationships throughout the region. And my focus is Northwest Florida, Northwest Florida, and Southern Alabama. From Tallahassee to Mobile and south. In that triangle is where we have all the products that I'm going to talk to you about. And we focus in that area, but because we have a large footprint in social media, we are worldwide, like everybody else that is in social media, technically, correct? We strongly believe and promote the power of networking and the importance of community involvement. That is the company's goal. We know it's important to network, so we establish some programs for that. We know it's important that we are part of that, so we belong to the Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce, the largest chamber of commerce in Northwest Florida, over 2,000 members. We belong to the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, a minority chamber in Tallahassee, and we belong to the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce, thanks to that man right there who does a great job for the Gulf Coast here. We also belonged to Tallahassee's chamber, but the pandemic hit us, obviously, so we had to cut some things down. We'll be back. We'll be back to the chamber, because belonging to chambers is extremely important, ladies and gentlemen. If your business does not belong to a chamber, you are behind the power curve. Definitely behind the power curve. We definitely partner with different agencies to create events like this one, to create networking events, and we'll talk a little bit about those things, okay? Now, this is what we're going to cover as far as the understanding of Hispanics, and in between, I'm also going to show you some examples of how Conexión Media Group does it. Talk about Hispanic or Latino. What is the difference? Is your friend a Hispanic or a Latino?
So Hispanics can be both Latin origin or European origin. Latino or Latinx are all Native American.
He saw my presentations. He's pretty close. Okay, so we'll talk about who that is. The difference between the two. Population, demographics, we'll go down the line. Language and culture, very important, right? We'll talk about the influence of Hispanics throughout the United States and all of those things. Then I'll talk to you about how to market to them and what the marketing gurus nationally say about Hispanics and how to reach them. I'll show you some examples in some videos that I'm going to show you. And then I'll talk about how do you reach them here in this region, which is what matters to you as a business, correct? You don't care about Minnesota. You care about Pensacola. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. So here it is, right there. Hispanic versus Latino. Hispanic is a U.S. created term. It was created by the census, but the background of Hispanic comes back from the Romans. Hispanic, Hispanicus, Hispania being the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal to the Romans. There's a huge relationship to Spain here in Pensacola, as we all know, right? And throughout the region, if you notice right here, you got a relationship right there. The Kingdom of Leon. These are the 5 kingdoms that used to make what's called Spain to the Romans. You got the Kingdom of Leon. That's what's that? Leon County, isn't it? I live in Navarre. Kingdom of Navarre. So there's that relationship here to Hispanics, if you think about it from that perspective. Now, when you think Hispanic, you got to think that it refers to language, as he kind of implied. So the Hispanic term was created to define in the census all of those people that speak Spanish. The Latin Americans and the Spaniards from Europe, who are not Latin American. So what's Latino? The term Latino is to define those of us that speak Spanish that are from Latin American nations. From Mexico on down to South America, the islands of the Caribbean, such as Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. Now, in South America, you have some nations that are not per se Latino because they really don't speak Spanish, but they're still considered Latin Americans. Guyana is French and Dutch. And Brazil is Portuguese. They don't speak Spanish. We still kind of consider Brazilians Latin Americans. So Latin has to do with geography. So Hispanic, language. Latin American, Latino or Latina, we're talking about geography now. Now, everybody has heard down the term Latinx, correct? That is just a new term that is actually not highly used. I don't use it. But media uses it all over the place. The marketers are using it big time. And it's really just a neutral term to define a Latin American. Latinx, instead of saying a Latino or a Latina, Latinx. For the purposes of marketing, when you hear that, they're talking about the Latin American part of the Hispanic overall community. These are the 20 Hispanic countries in the world right here. And again, think language, right? Hispanic countries, therefore that's why you have Spain as part of those. Does everybody knows this one right here, right? Everybody understands what this means, correct? Don't tell a Puerto Rican that he's not American. He is a U.S. citizen by birth, even though that's not a state. That'll insult a Puerto Rican big time. Do you have a passport? That kind of thing. We've got to be careful about those things. The word Hispanic can maybe insult a Latin American, and vice versa. The word Latino, you tell that to a Spaniard, and he's going to correct you very quickly. I'm not Latino. I'm Spaniard, he's probably going to say, but he falls under that category of Hispanic. So you got to be aware of these nuances when you're dealing with your customers, when you're dealing with your employees too, because cultural awareness is very important in these days, right? All right, let's move on to population, because this is where that demography thing is. I'll let you digest a few of those numbers. Huge numbers, right? 62.3 is the estimated population right now, and the census has not even been published yet officially. 19% of the current population, and look at that red statement. As a single segment, Hispanics accounted for half of all the U.S. population growth between the years 2010 and 2019. Since the last census, Hispanics have accounted for that much. Half of all the U.S. population growth. Look at that number right there. Are we a multicultural nation? You bet. Again, this is not a political statement. We are a multicultural nation, and it is going to continue growing on that concept because of that right there. And this, the expected growth in the next 5 years. I'm not even going to tell you what the expected growth in the next 15 years is. I may not even be alive in 2060. I'm probably not going to be alive, but I know there's not going to be 60 million Hispanics. It'll be like 150 million or so. These are huge numbers right here, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why it's important for you to know about how to market to Hispanics, how to deal with them if they're your employees, and obviously know them as friends also. Because we have a lot of differences amongst us, among those 20 nations, and that's one of the mistakes that people make. They put us all into one basket. We have a common language, yes. We have some common traits and principles and values, family, this, but there's a whole lot of differences in thinking sometimes between the Hispanic from Mexico and maybe that Hispanic that's coming from Colombia or Venezuela. There are differences, just like there are in the north and south of the United States sometimes in the ways that we are raised in many ways, as we know. Hispanic median age is 30. That means we're going to have a bunch of more babies. Those of them that are 30, because I'm not 30. I'm a young-looking old guy. And then there's the millennial. I know Dr. Webb talked about the millennials and the Gen Zers from the perspective of what he does is extremely important. And believe me, it is important when it comes to your employee, the millennial and the Gen Zer, when it comes to the one that you want to market and maybe hire or that you want to sell a product to. 23% of the overall millennials in the United States are Hispanic, and Gen Zers make 25%. So again, a large number, because the population overall is 19%, right, of the United States as far as Hispanics, but look at the numbers of the young people as it relates to their equivalent for the total U.S. population. They're a lot higher. And there's that number again. For the next 40 years, it is only going to grow. It is not going to go down. Immigration does affect this, but we're talking about U.S. citizen and or resident Hispanics that are in the United States, totally legally here. So the shift to a multicultural majority in the United States is underway. We cannot stop it. The only thing we can do is be part of making it positive. That's what we should do. As a company owner, as a company manager, as a leader, as a nonprofit service worker, what we should do is we should aim to be a positive force in that cultural shift that is occurring in the United States. What we're talking about the culture shift here is this right here. In 2020, last year, already, the Generation Z became a majority multicultural community in the United States. So we're talking about the young ones, right? But look at what's next. By the year 2030 or 2028, the 35 and unders will be a majority multicultural community. Everybody understand that? So the shift is on. It's going to happen. And that's what the other thing that this one is saying right here. Number one, millennials and Gen Z are the most diverse when it comes to the current. Okay? And then right here is that changeover that's occurring. So you got the multicultural community up here. And then eventually a majority multicultural community will exist in the United States. Cannot change it. Dr. Johnson, an expert in demography from North Carolina, Chapel Hill, gives a great presentation on demography. I hope to bring him soon because he talks about this. He says, if we do not take care of business right now for that community, to give them jobs and growth and education, and all those that may need some help, succeeding, your community is going to die. Your particular community is going to die if you do not care about this changeover. The South is where it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. You'd be surprised, right? The highest growth in these jumps that are occurring are actually occurring right here in the South. Not just Florida. Florida is already the number 3 nation or state as far as Hispanics, and Miami has them all, right? No, they don't. North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, all of the states, just the same. The per capita growth is huge in those states. And Florida is not obviously continuing to grow in the Hispanic community. One of the biggest challenges that we have, to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm talking about this, is convincing this region about it. Because they're not used to it. Hispanics have huge influence in Tampa, Orlando, Miami, all those cities back down there. But up here, Hispanics have not a lot of influence yet. The numbers are not that high yet. It ranges from about 5.5% in Santa Rosa County. Escambia County is about 9%. Gadsden, Quincy, close to Tallahassee, is about 10% as of the 5-6 years ago. When this census comes out, those percentages are going to shoot up. Definitely, for sure, no question about it. Continuing, let's talk about language. Estimated number of native speakers, the importance of language. Obviously, we cannot compete with the Chinese, right? There's too many of them. So Mandarin Chinese is the most native language speakers have there, 1.1 billion. What's next? English or Spanish? Oops, Spanish. And then it's English. This is for native speakers, right? How about the most widely spoken languages now, native speakers and others that learn these languages? What do you think the numbers are? Number one, what do you think? Neil? 1.13 billion people speak the language. We are blessed to be able to speak that as native speakers for those of us that speak the language here. I'm not a native speaker, by the way. I was born in Mexico and I came to the US and learned English. Number two, there's the Chinese again. What's number three? There's a lot of Hindus. Hindi. And the next one is Espanol. So language is very important for marketing to Hispanics. Language is very important for advertising. And language is important for your kids. Because if your kid learns, he already knows English, but maybe learns Spanish or Mandarin Chinese, his window of opportunity for jobs, international jobs or local jobs, statewide or United States wide, have just multiplied because of those numbers right there. So that's a smart shop owner right there. A Chinese Hispanic grocery. I know one person that speaks Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, and English. Only one. I'm sure there's more. Miss Chen, a teacher in Okaloosa County who's teaching kids throughout the Okaloosa County and I think other counties how to speak Mandarin because she is Chinese. And I met her as the Spanish club president. And obviously she speaks English. So she's just as smart as this guy right here that knows what's up. First generation Hispanics. Here's a misconception. Hispanics do not assimilate. They just want to be over there learning. They're speaking Spanish forever. They don't care about learning English. A huge misconception. I was born in Mexico. I came here in 1975. I spoke a little bit of English. I speak a little bit more now. Right? I have three sons. Two sons that are now in college and out there working. They speak English and Spanish as a secondary language. One generation. And that is the norm in the United States, to be honest with you, Hispanics. The parents come here like my parents did, with 8 kids. They don't have time to learn the language. They gotta work and survive and support 8 kids. They gotta work 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. They gotta build buildings and work 12-hour, 14-hour shifts. They don't have time to learn the language, some of them, right? But their kids will. So language is not a barrier with your customer, the Hispanic. Even if he or she, the adult, does not speak Spanish, when they need you, they will come with their kid, and the kid will translate for them. And you can still serve them. I got a little bonus when I was in the U.S. Air Force. The liaison function that I served in Latin America is because I spoke Spanish. So I got to travel to the capitals of the South America countries and meet with civil aviation authorities. So I had pisco sour with the Chileans, tequila and steak with the Mexicans, because I spoke the language. And I even got paid a little bit more because of that. Language is very important, so keep in mind that when you're hiring people. If you hire a bilingual person, you're technically hiring a person that can help you with that Hispanic customer that may not speak the language. My wife was a cashier at Walmart when we first got here. The majority of her work was actually translating for the Hispanic customers that didn't speak English, in addition to the cashier part. But the translation part was a busy piece for her. Moving on. We have huge influence throughout the United States in all sectors, especially media. So what you see right there is just an amalgam of different media outlets that are out there trying to reach to that Hispanic community. The 2 largest networks are Univision, based in Miami, and Telemundo, which used to be based in Los Angeles, but now it's also in Miami. And those are always fighting for the Hispanic viewer. And obviously, smart companies, take them over, right? Big conglomerates in the United States, they see that market, they see that growth, and they buy up Telemundo. That's why you see a lot of English and Spanish and bilingual and Spanglish programming in those 2 stations, or those 2 networks now. Just an example of, that cultural difference. We know networks, have similar programs, as we know, right? Good Morning America, and then whatever you call it on NBC or CBS. The same thing happens in Latin America. But one time they all got together. Good Morning America got together with Despierta America, their equivalent, and the hosts, were cross-matrixing, or whatever you want to call it, right? The huge difference observed, the Latin American hosts spoke both languages, and the American host did not speak Spanish. So the importance of language right there at a national level is obvious. Making inroads with the networks. Again, these networks are growing so big that they're competing with the top US shows. As you know, that's important for marketing, right? So this show right here, La Reina del Sur, in 2019 actually beat all the other shows, the top shows in CBS and Fox and all of those things that the Nielsen ratings people list. and that was a Spanish show beating everyone else, including the other network, when it comes to viewers in that very critical 18 to 49 demographic. That's what everybody shoots for as far as numbers for marketing purposes at the national level. The Hispanics love beauty. They make beauty queens throughout the Latin American nations, especially Venezuela and Colombia. And that's why you see a lot of Miss Universes being Latin American, because they just love that kind of stuff. 23 of them have won the Miss Universe pageant. On 16 May, when Miss Universe takes place again, you will likely see in the top 10 at least 5 or 6 Hispanics, because they build queens in those nations, to be honest with you. It's like a baseball player, you know, a little kid has the talent, right? Somebody sees them, and they grow to be a major leaguer. Same thing with beauty queens. And that's why, again, those outlets that need to reach to those potential beauty queens for cosmetology, you know, type of services and products, they hit them big time because of those numbers right there. People magazine is now in Espanol, and all those big magazines that used to be, obviously, American magazines are now also translated into Spanish, and there actually exists a Spanish version just for the Hispanic community. In food, it goes without saying, it's been a long time since salsa overtook ketchup as far as sales. This happened in 1992 when salsa started outselling ketchup in the United States. And we know that all the commercials and things that you see in Telemundo, especially, and Univision, you know, the big corporations got it a long time ago. The Walmarts, the Targets, the AT&Ts, and all of those, they got it a long time ago. Frito-Lay got it a long time ago. I'll tell you a story about Frito-Lay. Cheetos. Hot Flaming Cheetos, one of the top selling brands for the Frito-Lay Corporation. I love Cheetos, hot Flaming Cheetos. I used to make hot Flaming Cheetos when I was a baby, and I didn't even know it. But the janitor of the Frito-Lay Corporation, his name is Richard Montañez, is actually the one that invented hot Flaming Cheetos. Because he was working as a janitor for Frito-Lay, and the Cheeto machine broke down. It was not putting the little cheese thing that it puts on the Cheetos. You know, it broke down. So he went home. He prepared his hot Cheetos like I used to, and he used to when he was a kid, I'm sure, by putting paprika and a little hot pepper and all that stuff onto the regular Cheetos. He brought it to the CEO of the corporation and said, hey, check this out. After he got in the door, because he was the janitor, remember, he had to get in the door of the CEO. He had to persevere. He had to go buy a tie. He had to prepare to give a presentation to get to the CEO and say, check this out. Taste them. And he did. And that became hot Flaming Cheetos. He's no longer the janitor. He is the multicultural sales and community promotions big guy for Pepsi-Cola, the Pepsi-Cola company, and a huge motivational speaker throughout the United States. Music and dance, the same thing. Hispanics, you know, the culture of Hispanics has come into those Latin Grammys. You know, they had to establish their own Latin Grammy program, and you know, the salsa dancing is very popular. So the culture has pretty much come in and into the mainstream per se. I'm gonna give me at least 5 more minutes, okay? Because I want to talk about this piece right here, okay? When people market to Hispanics, they need to maintain culture in mind. It is important. It is important. So the marketers have to be aware of the nuances and differences between us Hispanics. So when you look at a Sonic commercial that's using Venezuelans, you will see that you will hear that they speak a little different than the Mexicans. And they have commercials that are for Venezuelan, with Venezuelan speakers, and some for the Mexican speakers, and so on and so on. Because they have to be conscious about the differences between us, even though we all speak Spanish. Gen Zers again and millennials. They care about social issues. So they're going to join companies that care about social issues. They're going to aim to create businesses that promote social issues, and they reward such companies, meaning they become your good employees. Because if you care about social issues, they definitely do care, and they want you to make sure that you also do it. Multicultural consumers expect the companies to represent them, meaning commercials and advertising and clothing and all those kind of things that you want to sell them. If you are one of those businesses, you have to be respectful of those cultural nuances. You know, be careful about certain things that you use with a certain culture, because you insult them, you just lost them. And within the Hispanic community, which I'm sure the case is with all communities, he's going to tell his cousin, and his cousin is going to tell his friends, and pretty soon you lost thousands of potential customers because you insulted them. These are just numbers on the internet piece. High users. The percentage of use for Hispanics all across the social media sites, except a few of them, is a lot higher than any other community, white community or other multicultural communities. Okay? So the importance of language, again, continues here in the marketing piece and social media piece. I'm just going to show you to close it up, to be honest with you. I want to show you some videos, okay? Because I think they're funny in a way. And again, these are national companies, and now you can understand, obviously, that maybe none of us here have the money and funds to market as such, right? But I'm going to show you at the end, where you can reach them here locally to close it out, okay? So let's see if I can do this. Escape. Command tab, right? Okay. This is Verizon. Verizon. So you got the English speaker guy?
I'm sorry, someone like you habla español. Verizon está hecho para funcionar mejor en ciudades porque tienen la mejor red del país y comprar es limitado desde $40 por línea. ¿Usa el mío?
So there's an example of a bilingual commercial right there. But again, you see the gentleman, one speaks both languages, the other one only one, right? So he is at a disadvantage, right? Who likes Shaquille O'Neal? The NBA is huge in Latin America, so who do they pick? The man, right? The man that can talk to them. And then everybody knows Lily, right? I got the other one still running. Yeah, go ahead and turn them in, and then I'm going to finish with that one, okay? So again, I know that most of us do not have the money to do that, right? So how do you reach them here locally? The most efficient way to reach them is through me. Just kidding. Come and talk to me, and I will prove it to you. Because I have all the means to reach them for you. I can reach them on a focused approach if you want to hire a bilingual. I can reach them if you want to hire somebody in construction. I can reach them if you want certain jobs. Because I know where they are, I know how they think, and I have all the means to do it. I have a hard copy publication. I have a TV show through YouTube and social media. I have networking socials that I do throughout the region, and I do some of the largest community cultural events in this region. So when you buy an ad with me in my newspaper, you're helping me do my passion to inform, guide, and educate Hispanics and multicultural readers. And we have a lot of military and non-Spanish speakers because my publication is bilingual. But all the other services that I have are at your disposal because you are my customer. So you're gonna get additional things. More bang for the buck, that's for sure. Okay? Now, there's a lot of events throughout the region, festivals and things like that you should participate in. Next, on the 22nd of May, the Gulf Coast Culture Fest is gonna happen. There's gonna be a lot of Hispanics there and non-Hispanics. That event is not ours, but we are a sponsor, just like we are a sponsor of you. Those are the type of ways to reach them, and I have more information. I just don't want to go too much into it because we did have a couple other slides. This is what we helped Visit Florida do through a local company here in Pensacola because they wanted to show the connection of the Hispanic community to the Northwest region. Go ahead.
Here you will find where Hispanic history is written into Florida.
We are at the Martin House, which is really a historical site where DeSoto's encampment for the first Christmas in Florida was celebrated. The Indians lived here and they made foot trails. So when DeSoto came, he followed the foot trails to Lake City, and then from Lake City followed it to Tallahassee.
Theater with a Mission is a tiny troupe of actors, translators, and history buffs from all over rural North Florida. We are interested in reviving plays that were written in Spanish while Florida belonged to Spain, so that people can rediscover Florida's Spanish roots.
In the process of celebrating Hispanic culture and sharing the literature, we want to try to cultivate connections between people within the community.
You step into that time machine and you get to be a first-person eyewitness of something that happened in the past.
I love the music scene, I love the art scene. There's so much history here to explore.
I'm David Triana, also known as DJ JC of Black Pleasure Entertainment here in Pensacola, Florida. We're here at our weekly salsa nights. We come and dance, you know, shake their little boom boom every once in a while. Somos dueños aquí de taquería El Asador. Nuestra especialidad son las carnes asadas.
If you haven't had good tacos,
Y pues para que ellos se lleven un excelente sabor y recuerdo de aquí de Pensacola. Gente de México viene a vacacionar aquí a Florida e inmediatamente ellos se levantan y preguntan que si somos de Monterrey. Distinguen ese sabor tradicional de México. Los invitamos aquí a Pensacola, tiene unas excelentes, hermosas playas y todo lo que viene siendo la costa del Golfo. La gente es muy amable, muy hospitalarios. Aquí los esperamos con mucho gusto. So there is a lot of rich history when it comes to the Hispanic culture. This is probably one of the best times to come and visit when it comes to the food, dancing, people, the language. We all come into one combination here. It's all love here.
all of those people that you saw in that video are either collaborators of our paper, like Deborah Desilets, or clients of our paper, or friends that we've worked with in the past in those networking activities and all that stuff. So when Visit Florida and the local company contacted us for assistance, that's who we went to. And that's how we can help you as a client of ours, because who do you think is going to get that opportunity? Somebody I don't know? Of course not. Of course not. Thank you very much for listening. Again, I had to combine the two of them, so it's kind of convoluted in many